admit that using behavioral psychology on your husband or even your kids sounds a lot like manipulation. So, how can you tell the difference between influence and manipulation? Well, that's today's topic. Hello, I'm Dr. Debbie. I worked with men, women, and couples for more than 25 years before I closed my clinical practice in August 2021. I also taught both undergraduate and graduate psychology courses at two Christian universities during that same time frame. Therefore, the information I'm sharing with you comes from my training as well as my clinical and teaching experience. So let's dive in. To determine if something is influence or manipulation, you must ask the question, who benefits from the outcome? If you're trying to get someone to do something that's purely for your benefit or pleasure, you're manipulating him. Manipulation also often includes drama and/or emotional blackmail. On the other hand, influence provides significant benefits for both people, and most importantly, the freedom to choose one's own actions. If you engage in a behavior just because you want something, you're not freely choosing your actions either. What you do is totally dependent on the outcome. And if it doesn't go the way you'd like, you won't be a happy camper. And unhappy campers tend to make themselves and other people miserable. Neither does manipulation create a satisfying relationship. A marriage that operates on the basis of quid pro quo is not love. Keeping score sets you up for competition. The truth is, when one person wins, both people lose, no matter if the winner is the husband or the wife. To influence your husband, you need to know how he operates as a member of the opposite sex. What is he thinking? How does he feel? Why does he do the things he does instead of something else? You know what you need, but do you know what he needs? At the top of his list are respect and trust. Now, respect should be an easy one, except that women often base their willingness to respect their husbands on whether or not he deserves her respect. However, all people deserve respect. Yes, all. Because we're created in the image of God Himself. Therefore, you can choose to respect your husband because of who you are, not because of what he does. You have respect for God, and you demonstrate that by respecting the creatures of His creation, starting with your husband. Men actually shut down and/or get angry when they're being disrespected. Some women I know do this intentionally. That is, they know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they are being disrespectful. But that's not the most disturbing thing about disrespect. Unfortunately, most women actually do disrespect their husbands, but they don't even know that what they're doing or saying feels disrespectful to their husbands. Thus, women who want their husbands to be better men absolutely must do an inventory on this one. Now, you may think that you're just being straightforward or reasonable, but if he's not growing as a husband, father, and/or leader, then something must be getting lost in translation. For example, your husband feels disrespected when you undermine him, advise him, or command him. So what does that look like? Well, you undermine him when you contradict him in front of others instead of having a private conversation about your difference of opinion. You say something to your child like, "No, you don't have to do that, sweetheart. Your dad's just being way too hard on you." You give him unsolicited advice anytime your sentence begins with, "You should," or "Why don't you?" Seems like we're just making a suggestion, but it actually comes across as judgmental. Finally, you command him when you tell him to do something, rather than ask that he do something. For example, "Take this upstairs," instead of, "Would you mind taking this up as you go?" Now, trust is a different matter altogether. Not everyone deserves your trust. Trust has to be earned. Once that trust has been broken, it can take a ton of consistent work to regain it. A long and painful process, especially in cases of infidelity. However, the time and effort will be well spent, and often produces an even stronger bond than before the breach. So, influencing your husband starts with respecting him, and respecting him begins with being able to see how he sees life. In other words, what he thinks, how he feels, and why he does the things he does instead of something else. Now, you don't have to agree with him. That's not the equation here. You were actually created to bring another perspective. What you do have to do is understand where he's coming from. And that's why I created a Wise Woman's Guide to Men and Marriage. To get you started, you can watch the playlist here on YouTube. In this series of seminars, I explain how men are more sensitive than women, that they have very different experiences than we do, and what both nature and nurture mean in terms of how he sees the world. Remember, he needs your perspective, but you also need his perspective. So how can you influence your husband to become a better man? You have to begin with knowing the truth and learning to walk in love. After all, you can't love someone you don't know. And if he doesn't feel by your actions, not just your words, that you care about him, he won't be open to your influence. He'll shut you out to protect himself, and both of you will lose in the process. We need to talk about the truth, ladies, because we've been lied to about who we are as women, and we've been lied to about men. I want you to know the truth about him and learn to do the things that will influence him to welcome your influence. Doesn't that sound wonderful? It is. So that's what we're going to discuss in the 5-Day Women's Challenge right here on YouTube. Each day I'll present a specific challenge with the goal of helping you change the way you see your husband and thereby changing the way he responds to you. I'll explain why our usual approaches, those strategies that women most often use, often fail to create the emotional bond we need for a lasting and happy marriage. In each video, I will assign a simple experiment that you can easily complete in the following 24 hours. Then you can note the results, and if they were positive, repeat the experiment as often as you like. If what you do fails to get a positive response, contact me and let me know what happened. We'll evaluate the outcome together. Think of it as your own guided research project. So, join me as we focus on what works best to influence your husband. That's what we're going to be doing in the 5-Day Women's Challenge right here on YouTube. You can attend simply by subscribing to this channel. Be sure to click the notification bell so you don't miss any of the assignments. And if you'd like the free workbook, you can download it at drdebbysmith.com/challenge. Let's do this.